and welcome to the channel. I'm Cassidy Cash. This week we're going to dive into the history of Bibles for Shakespeare's lifetime. With all the flip-flop between Protestant and Catholic and the staunchly anti-Catholic sentiments going on during Elizabeth's reign, compounded by the effects of the Reformation, which had started just decades earlier, the concept of translating the Bible into English was a dangerous one, as we see by the death of William Tyndale in the 1530s. Many others continued his work, though, and some Bibles were not only sold legally in England, but actually licensed by the crown officially. Let's explore which ones were considered legal and okay to own versus the ones that would get you killed, and how many were published during the life of William Shakespeare. All that and more right now on That Shakespeare Life. William Tyndale was executed on October 9th, 1536, for translating the Bible from Greek and Hebrew into English so that the common people could read it. His accuser, Henry Phillips, the impetus behind Tyndale's death, would later be tried and executed himself for being in league with the Pope against Henry VIII. This whole situation underlies the sham accusations against Tyndale and highlighting the religious turmoil in England for the 16th century. Now, while Tyndale wasn't the first to translate the Bible into English, Wycliffe had translated an English version of the Latin Vulgate in the 1380s. Tyndale was the first person to translate the Bible from the original Greek and Hebrew directly into English, which is why William Tyndale is considered today the father of the English Bible. Both Wycliffe and Tyndale had the same goal of getting the Bible from the text into the hands, minds, and hearts of the common people by making it available in the common language. Surprisingly, however, Tyndale's Bible wasn't the most popular translation for Shakespeare's lifetime, which came just decades after Tyndale's death. So what did happen after Tyndale's death, and how did the Bible translations into English impact Shakespeare? Were there additional English versions of the Bible published in Shakespeare's lifetime? I sat down with professional Bible historians and translators Jacobus and Cynthia Naudet to ask these questions, and here's what they had to say.
The Wycliffe Bible translation in Middle English in 1380 to 1388 became unintelligible in the time of William Tyndale at the beginning of the 16th century, and could only be understood by comparing it to the Latin text, which made the English translations of William Tyndale since 1625 a necessity.
The Protestant Reformation produced an astonishing wave of Bible translation that swept across Reformation Europe. Although forbidden by the Roman Catholic Church to translate the Bible into English, William Tyndale produced in Europe an English New Testament by 1525 that was smuggled into England and Scotland, where it was very popular. And another translation had been made by Miles Coverdale to fulfill this needs of this church. It was published in London in 1535 as a Coverdale Bible, the first complete Bible in English. When Tyndale was arrested, John Rogers took Tyndale's translation. Remember, Tyndale's translation was not finished, and he finished that translation as the so-called Matthew's Bible, which was published in 1537, and King Henry VIII licensed 1,500 copies of it a year after the execution of Tyndale. Therefore, the Matthew Bible is the first Bible legally sold in England. And by the end of 1537, there were the cover Bible and the licensed Bible were now licensed, and that caused a battle over an official standard Bible. So to solve this, a new translation was needed, and Henry ordered to translate the Great Bible, and that was the Bible which was published in 1539 as a Great Bible, and that was a Bible which was put in the church. Queen Mary then ascended the throne in 1553. She forbid any private reading and possession of the Bible. There was a migration of Protestants from England to Geneva, and these they were engaged in a translation a new translation of the Bible, the Geneva New Testament of 1557 and the Complete Bible of 1560, with many theological and exegetical notes. In 1558, Elizabeth I ascended the throne after the death of her half-sister Mary. She declared the Church of England again triumphant and supported the public reading of the Bible. And despite the popularity of this Geneva Bible, the church leaders of the Church of England considered the Calvinistic notes offensive, and so they suggested to undertake another official Bible translation, and that becomes the Bishop's Bible. With the ascension of King James in 1603, the revision of the English Bible would fascinate the world for centuries was conceptualized the King James version. To meet the Protestant challenge and to prevent Catholics from reading heretical Protestant translations, the English Catholics aboard in Reims produced their own translation of the New Testament in 1582 and the full Bible in 1609 to 1610.
So which of these Bible translations are actually considered early modern Bibles, and how many were printed for the first time during Shakespeare's lifetime?
So according to this Stratford-on-Avon Church record, Shakespeare was baptized on 26 April 1564 and he died 23rd April 1616. Are there more than 352 editions of the English Bible, which were printed from 1525 until Shakespeare's death. About 164 editions of the Bible were published during Shakespeare's lifetime. During Shakespeare's lifetime, the following complete Bible translations were published: the Bishop's Bible in 1568 and again in 1572 as a second folio edition with corrections, and 19 editions later on until 1617. The Douay-Rheims version, the New Testament, was published in 1582, reprinted in 1600, and then the full Bible in 1609 to 1610. And in the King James Version in 1611.
But there were these previous editions that were really quite relevant for Shakespeare's lifetime. So the Tyndale translation had 41 editions between 1525 and 1566. There were 7 editions of the Coverdale Bible until 1553, and 21 editions of the Great Bible until 1569. Until its ban in 1644, 140 editions of the Geneva Bible were translated. There were also smaller editions that are not much mentioned. So there was Lawrence Tomlin's New Testament in 1576, which was revision of the New Testament of the Geneva Bible. And then in the Geneva Bible itself, there was a very interesting new translation of the Book of Revelation in 1599, which replaced the original version of the translation of Revelation and added very anti-Catholic notes as well to that translation. And then another important one was the Sternhold and Hopkins, the Psalms of David in English meter. So these were the Psalms translated as English poetry with English meter, and those were often included in the Book of Common Prayer as well. So there was a wide variety of translations, really an explosion of translations that were available in Shakespeare's time.
To hear the rest of our interview with Jacobus and Cynthia, visit our podcast page at CassidyCash.com/episode 310. Inside our episode, we discuss what kinds of Bibles Shakespeare would have read. We talk about the Matthew Bible and several others, as well as asking the question of how come King James felt like he needed to go to the trouble of producing the King James Bible in 1611 when we had not only Tyndale's version, Wycliffe's version, but multiple other English translations of the Bible available in addition to the King James Bible as well. well. So why, if it was such a controversial thing to do, would James go to this trouble? We answer those questions in our podcast episode as well. Find all these things at CassidyCash.com/episode 310. And while you're there, be sure to click the Patreon button to either join us as a patron or log in if you're already a supporter. And bonus history content related to this episode will expand on the website. The extras this week include primary documents, photos of Bibles from Shakespeare's lifetime, portraits of the translators, and more. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Cassidy Cash, and I hope you learned something new about the Bard. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.